the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast, the official podcast of Football Italia. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima and Tavallaey. The Serie A season is well underway now, match day 2 played at the weekend, and on today's show we will review all the Serie A action from the weekend as Milan coach Paulo Fonseca is already under pressure after really a quite dismal defeat to Parma. Very worrying performance from Milan, with Rafael Leao already at odds with some Milan fans. Roma also flopped in their first game after the Paulo Dybala transfer soap opera, as they lost at home to Empoli with an equally humiliating defeat. Champions Inter get their first win of the season against Lecce, as do Napoli and Antonio Conte, as Khvicha Kvaratskhelia put on a real show against Bologna. Atalanta crashed down back to earth, losing to Torino with an injury time penalty miss. We're also into the last days of the summer transfer market, and Juventus are doing lots and lots of business, bringing in Nico, Gonzalez and Francisco Conceição over the weekend. Jadon Sancho could even potentially follow. Tun Koopman is almost certainly will this week. So we will look at how Juventus will line up with all these new signings, and we'll also have our usual bad joke, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday where we answer all of the questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. You can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. We provide the link in the description. It's the same price, same terms. And for all of you that listen on Spotify, Apple and iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating, give us a follow and a like. We're also on YouTube as well, so please subscribe to us there. All of that really helps us to grow and do more quality content for you guys. Also, just to finally say that last week's show, the Monday show, which was our first free Monday show of the season, was our most listened to Monday podcast ever, the most downloads that we've ever had. So yeah, thank you to everyone. This is the biggest that we've ever been in terms of patrons, in terms of YouTube. So it's we really appreciate your support, guys.
Yeah, and also like in terms of downloads on iTunes and all these other podcast platforms as well. So yeah, thank you to everyone who's sharing, and keep sharing and keep listening, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we certainly do. So let's get into today's show. Right, so let's start off with the Sunday evening games first. I want to start off with the Roma match because this is the match that I watched. I was very interested to watch Roma because of what had happened earlier in the week with Paulo Dybala. Paulo Dybala was set to leave the club to move to Saudi Arabia. Everything was basically done. He'd agreed a ridiculous salary, 75 million euros over 3 years to join Al-Qadsiya, if I pronounced that right, who have been like the big spenders in Saudi Arabia. Go on, tell me, Nim, how's the right way to say it?
No. I just love how you make me laugh.
Okay, right. We're gonna laugh for no reason at Carlo. Okay.
No. It's like I love how you say, because you want to say it right, and you sound like insecure whilst you're saying.
Yes. Well, yeah, I have. Yeah.
Like questioningly, Al-Qadsiya. Like. It's just funny. That's what made me laugh.
Yeah, well, Paulo Dybala had agreed to Al-Qadsiya in Saudi Arabia, but 75 million euros over 3 years. And then he had his moment, and he decided after saying goodbye to all his teammates at the training ground, he then seemingly had a change of heart and decided to stay. I mean, he said after the game yesterday, he gave his reasons for staying. He says, I've considered my family, my wife, the city, the team, the national team. People talk about money, but I considered many factors. I'm 30, I've considered all factors, and I'm very happy to stay. I mean, first of all, on Dybala.
Sabatini.
Yes, you got there first. I mean, was it Dybala? Was it Roma unhappy about the small transfer fee, which was suggested by some outlets, or which is my opinion, was it Sabatini, as I call her, his new wife now,
So
who
accusatory.
didn't want to move to Saudi Arabia. I think Sabatini had a huge role to play in it. It was probably the most important factor of all. But ultimately he stayed. What do you think it was?
I think it's a combination of everything. I think, the way that everyone, of course, from the Roma angle, they want to say that it's love, and I'm sure that's part of it, because the clubs like Roma, Napoli, the southern clubs, like genuinely in Italy, if you're loved at a football club, it is like it's unlike anything else. It's forever. But the more south you go, the more intensive that becomes, and that's both for good and bad. Equally, when you're hated, you are very hated. Just ask Gonzalo Higuain. But I think that was part of it. I think at this point in his career, he's never going to be a demigod anywhere else. And the money, he's not exactly poor. And I think it was all of the above. And his wife Sabatini was also like, there's they have a good life, these guys, everyone, no matter where they go. But I think it's also a fact of they're happy where they are. And you have to take that into consideration. And sometimes if you are just happy where you are, you shouldn't move. And I think we've seen that twice this summer. All of the above combined has resulted in someone choosing to stay. Lautaro did it at Inter. He knew he couldn't, like we went through at the time, he wouldn't become a captain and a central figure at any other club at that level. His family's happy. He's loved there. And so, the money isn't exactly, he's not poor either. So I think these factors kind of, players, when they mature, they understand that. I think when you're younger, you kind of just look at the dollar signs and you're like, whoa, get that bag. But when you're 30, 27 to 30 and so on, you've got children and all that, and you see that your family's really happy, you make a decision based on all factors. And I think that's what Dybala did. I think it was a very unnecessary circus, because they, from Roma and Saudi and Dybala, I don't want to go into the details of this, but I've been following this detail and I've been speaking to people who have insight into these negotiations, and it was a cluster F from all sides. Misunderstandings, statements lost in translation, people misunderstanding each other, transfer fees being conflated with wages. I mean, it was just a complete mess. So it was truly a soap opera. But what we can say is, okay, love, united, everyone's happy at Roma, but the problem still remains.
Yeah, and that's what. I want to come to
Dybala's
that.
wages and the tactical.
Yeah, I want to come into that. I mean, I think, look, from the side of Serie A for the league, I think it's good that he stayed. He's one of the few superstars, global names in Serie A during a kind of a tough time. We've even seen with the transfer window this summer that it's not been, aside from Juventus and I mean, Roma have spent as well, but in terms of like bringing in big names, established names, it's not a great time for Serie A, and he's one of the few real. I mean, we've seen with the TV rights as well. Even though I'm sure the Liga Serie A and Infront have completely botched that massively, and it's embarrassing, as we discussed on the pod last week. But also, when you don't have these big kind of sellable superstars, it doesn't make it easy to sell TV rights. And Dybala is one of those few. He's one of the few individualists left in Serie A. Well, not just Serie
He's
A.
one of the few
In
household names.
In football as a whole, these kind of individual players that you want to watch, just them. And he's a Serie A institution. 12 years in Serie A. Palermo, Juventus, now Roma. I mean, it would be like a massive gaping hole once he left. It'd be the end of an era for Serie A. So in that respect, it's nice. Also from a romantic point of view, it's lovely to see him still there. The question is, though, is it good for Roma? And from a financial point of view, definitely not. 30 million across 2 seasons, which no Italian club can really, afford anymore. And then there is the tactical problems. And that's where we will come onto the game, because I think that was clearly shown, not just Dybala, but just Roma as a whole. The biggest takeaway from this game were, and I raised this at the beginning of the season, when Roma have spent 100 million and everyone was getting excited. They brought in Dovbyk, they brought in Soulé, they brought in Lefebvre. They're spending all this money, they're back, haven't been able to spend all this time. I said, and it's still too early to make any conclusions, but I said, I am concerned how Roma line up tactically, whether they can get this to work tactically. And what we've seen so far in this season, and certainly what we saw in this game against Empoli, the first 2/3 of this game, was that Roma are tactically a complete mess. They are so slow. The team is so slow. There's no pace in the team at all. There's no width in the team at all. Those are the two big ones. No pace, no width. Tactically, it's a mess. And with regards to Dybala, you play Dybala, you can't play wingers, so you don't have that width, natural width, unless you get him from the fullbacks. You don't have that width. De Rossi said himself, we can't play a 4-3-3 with Dybala.
No, you can't.
And then trying to play Dybala and Soulé, there's question marks over that, which I raised at the beginning of the season. I think that was shown in this game. So you have to play a 4-3-2-1 to try and get them in the team again. Again, that's something that De Rossi said. You have to try and play a 4-3-2-1 to get those two to work together, which is what they played. And that's what we saw in the first half. And it was just awful. So De Rossi has a hell of a job here, I think, trying to get this to work tactically, given the attributes of his players, no pace, and given the attributes of his players in terms of how he sets up a formation. So Roma are a mess, I think.
My problem is there's no real physicality and pace in this midfield. I see a lot of safe passes with Paredes and Pellegrini, but they're not very powerful physically and they're not very quick. And what Brian Cristante is good at, only God knows. I'm sure he's not very good at football. And it's very unlucky for Roma that he happens to be employed for them as a footballer. They need to get rid of him. And he was just awful. I do think that with Soulé, he's a winger. He's a traditional winger. If you got Dybala cutting in from the left and you want to push, Soulé out to the right, or have them kind of interchange, give them a free role and say, you do that, and you have Dovbyk as your kind of prima punta, that could work in the final third. But I think the problem is the midfield. They don't have anyone who can win the ball. They don't have anyone who can give balance to that midfield. They're all too slow. And I think Cristante, it has now become like painfully evident for everyone that he's not good enough at this level. He is a mid-table at best Serie A player. He's not any club that has any team that has any ambition to finish above 7th cannot have Brian Cristante. Even as a rotation player, he's just not good enough. And we've seen it time and time.
He certainly wasn't the worst centre midfielder in this game, and that was Paredes. Paredes had an absolute shocker. I mean,
Paredes needs people to protect him.
Yeah, but he does. But just look at the second goal. I mean, he gives the ball. First of all, he gives the ball away shockingly to Esposito on the halfway line. Then he chases back to try and win it, and he just charges in like a raging bull, and he gives away a penalty. And Paredes, both of us have always said we've never got the whole why so many big clubs always go after Paredes and why he's linked to so many big clubs all the time. But he was really good having said that, he was very, very good under De Rossi.
Yeah,
in the second half of last season when De Rossi came in. And now this game is like, well, he's back to normal again in this game, just brain dead, just mad. But I mean, I agree with you on the midfield, but I think it's the whole team. There's just no pace in the whole team. The team's just too slow. And De Rossi even said that at the end of the game in his quotes. He says, in modern football, I'm paraphrasing, in modern football, you need pace and intensity and aggression, and we didn't have it. I think De Rossi realises he's holding back, but he secretly knows what all the problems are in this team. But there's nothing he can do about it. There's nothing he can do about it because he doesn't have the players. And he knows Dybala was a problem. And I think secretly, again, he said it indirectly a number of times. about Dybala, the tactical problems that he poses, and it's just he. So I think he really would have wanted Dybala to leave. Not that I think Roma would have been any better really without Dybala, but it would have been able to, I guess, start building something.
But the thing is, if you, at the end of the day, I think De Rossi is also a clever man. He's very intelligent in the sense of he knows how to handle difficult situations. Like he's very diplomatic. He comes across as someone he's got excellent reputation as a person. Everybody loves him. Nobody has a bad word to say about him. And I think he's good at maintaining relationships and building. And what now this becomes is, how does he make this work? And I think 4-3-2-1 is the way forward. I think that's also good for someone like Baldanzi, because
he was the only positive in this game.
Yeah, he was, and I think I would like to see. I keep saying this. If you're gonna have this situation, I'd rather see Pellegrini as a regista. I'd rather see Lefebvre and Baldanzi on either side of him, and then have Dybala, Sule, and just drop Cristante and Paredes, because it's just not going to work with those two, especially when Paredes is out of form and Cristante, who we know is just not very good at much at this level. So, and then have
that's very offensive. I mean, Roma only.
I think they have to do that. That's exactly it.
Roma only
attack is the best defense for Roma.
Well, really maybe because the Roma only put consistent pressure. Roma only looked good in this game in the final quarter when they went to a back three actually in the second half. They went more of a they went kind of like 3-4-2-1 at the start, but then they went. De Rossi went for broke after the second goal, and he just threw on all his attackers. They had Dybala, Sule, Dovbyk, Pellegrini, Baldanzi, and Lefebvre. That's basically 6 attacking players on the field at the same time. And then after that, he brought on Shomurodov, who scored his first goal for Roma in 2 seasons. And then he nearly scored the equaliser as well. That was Roma were only putting consistent pressure on them, but I think that's also down to the fact that Empoli are 2 up. They're just trying to hold on to what they've got. Empoli are getting tired, and Roma are just going for. I mean, in the end, Roma probably deserved a draw. Dybala hit the post with an amazing shot at the end. Very, very unlucky.
Well, if we're going to be honest, on the preponderance of chances, Empoli should have won this 4-1.
Well, Empoli should have been 3-0 up at half time, yes.
Minimum 3-0 up. I mean, Colombo was unlucky hitting the cross.
He wasn't unlucky. He missed an open goal.
Yeah, he did. That's fair enough.
That's miss of the season.
Jassi, who scored, missed a sitter.
Both of them did, yeah. Jassi missed a sitter. They had almost two open goals. I mean,
yeah, they did. I mean, they should have been 4-0 up at half time.
At half time, yeah. But what I mean is that Roma deserved an equaliser at the end because they were all over them at the end. But, that only came when they went for broke and the game was already... Because this is what happens in football. The final quarter, let's say, of football matches, the intensity drops and it becomes less about pace and intensity and it becomes more about quality. And that's where Roma's quality. Roma have loads of quality. They have loads of technical quality. They have loads of creativity. They have loads of players that are fantastic on the ball, and that probably shines out more towards the end. But the first 2/3 of a game or 3/4 of a football match, you cannot have this lack of pace and lack of width in your team, Roma can't, and that's where it's a mess.
I do want to talk about Empoli. Although Colombo was good, even though he missed a sitter, but I thought he was good in this game. But we have to praise Fazzini. Fazzini was brilliant for 50 or 60 minutes of this game. Another Empoli. It's interesting to see how they keep. We talk about young Italian players not getting a chance, but Empoli actually do give young Italian players a chance, and they all. And
Esposito as well. He won the penalty.
Yeah. Well, if they can revive that career, they should. I don't know what they should have a statue built to the honor of the club.
Yeah. There's that word "that." Whenever Nima uses the word "that" before describing someone or something, he doesn't like that thing. Let me just tell you that.
No, but I really liked Fazzini. I thought he was very, very good. And he's an Italy under-21 player, and. So
he went on a good run when he shot it wide at 0-0. He's
in the build-up phase as well. I thought he was really, really good. He impressed me.
Yeah, agreed. Let's move on to Napoli then. Antonio Conte gets his first win after taking over at Napoli after that terrible start with the 3-0 loss to Verona. This was a dominant performance from Napoli. This is more what we've come to expect from Antonio Conte teams. But I mean, there was one player that stood out among the rest. This was a clinic from Kvaratskhelia. What a performance! A goal, an assist. He hit the crossbar. He was absolutely unplayable in this game, Nima.
Yeah, he was, and this is what I meant when I said that Kvaratskhelia is going to shine for Napoli under Conte. And just imagine when Lukaku comes in and plays as that, with playing off. He can play off Lukaku, who you cannot move when he blocks the ball. He's going to have many, many more chances, and he's going to shine much more. I do, we're going to talk about the negativity as well, because I do think there are things that they need to address. But the positiveness, Buongiorno, fantastic. Di Lorenzo as a right centre-back, as I've been saying, when you use him properly, scored a brilliant goal, fantastic. Mazzocchi, as I also said, he's one of the biggest winners of Conte taking over at Napoli. But Politano's looking decent in this 3-4-2-1 as well. So it was, but more importantly, it's exactly the kind of reaction you want after that horror show in the opening game. And Napoli needed this. And again, to kind of answer the question which you kind of pointed to last week as well about, well, we're not worried about the mental aspect of it, because Conte always knows how to wake up players mentally, and that was certainly a response that corroborated that, because mentally Napoli were outstanding. This was exactly the kind of reaction he wanted. I really liked Raspadori as well. See, this is what I'm saying. I'm not worried about Napoli going forward, and I'm not worried about them defensively. What I am worried about them is centrally, and this is what I wanted to talk about. They are too open, because Lobotka cannot cover that much distance. And Anguissa is the one man needs another person next to him to be able to close off. They were playing against Bologna, who weren't very good, but against bigger teams, they will get completely overrun. And I think Conte could kind of, when he realizes this, I mean, this they haven't finished their mercato either, but they need another central midfielder who just runs and covers space. And that's why I get the McTominay links. Do you know what I mean?
It's more than links. They've agreed a transfer fee.
Yeah,
For
I
him.
get that. I get why Scott McTominay is someone he wants. He wants someone who runs and tackles and covers space. And that just makes sense. And with Lukaku coming in and so on, I think, things are kind of, this is more the Conte Napoli that I've been expecting to see, or I think we will see. I think last week was just, it was something else. It was due to other factors, and he again, rightfully so, Conte came out and took responsibility for it. Now it seems that he's understood it. He's fired them up, and they played. The first goal was beautiful Conte football, and they were really good. And I think this is more in the mold of the Napoli that we're going to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The negatives for me are not this match. The negatives are how I see the last kind of 4 days of this transfer window going. So we now know that a bid has a concrete official bid has finally come in for Victor Osimhen 4 days before the end of the transfer window. But it's come from Saudi Arabia with Al Ahly, who have bid between 65 to 70 million euros, which it seems as though Napoli are quite inclined to accept
He
that
doesn't have a
offer,
choice, De Laurentiis.
which is a huge failure. Really is a huge failure from Napoli's point of view. I mean, they've gone from 130 million to 65 to 70 million. They really have botched this, starting from the summer of the Scudetto. Put it this way, we're going to talk about Giuntoli later. There's no way, if Giuntoli was there, this would have been handled this badly. No chance. It's been botched up from De Laurentiis to the new sporting director that's coming this summer. Obviously, he came to the party a little bit late with this, but
It
still.
started last season.
But it started last summer, but he's still part of this because he's had all this summer. It's been completely botched. And, if they're only going to get it... But the issue is that it looks like Osimhen is not going to accept this anyway. He doesn't want to move to Saudi Arabia. He still wants to wait out and kind of pray that one of PSG or Arsenal. He seems to be like Chelsea. He kind of still quite reluctant to go to Chelsea as well because they're not in the Champions League, but he might be forced to if an offer does eventually come in from Chelsea, which he might not do either. So there's still a bit of uncertainty as we record this on Monday morning. But so there's that for starters. But secondly, which I'm still very, very critical of, let's just imagine that they do sell Osimhen for 65, 70 million. I think it's quite clear now they're not going to get more than that. The way that they're spending this money, 30 million on Lukaku, okay, it's a Conte player, but he's 31 years old. It's a lot of money, but anyway, that's Lukaku. At least we know the kind of level that he can still potentially get to if Conte can get the best of him. But then 30 million on Lukaku, but then 30 million transfer fee agreed for McTominay. They're still going to try and close Billy Gilmore as well, which is you're probably looking at 15 million or something. So they're bringing in these level of players with the Osimhen money. That's all the Osimhen money. So when you put it all in together, I mean, this kind of just to an extent, this shows where Napoli and Serie A clubs are now in terms of the transfer market and what kind of level of players they can get. But that really doesn't impress me at all. I think it's quite depressing. If I'm honest with you.
No, well, to be honest, this is not. I don't see that as well. To start with that point, I don't see this as where Napoli and Serie A clubs are now. This is Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte wants his style of players, and they make no sense. Again, the man gift wrapped Sandro Tonali and gave it to AC Milan because he wanted Arturo Vidal. And Arturo Vidal in 2021 or whatever it was, when he was completely finished and could barely walk. His highlight reels include rolling over his Ferrari or Lamborghini drunk. That was his highlight reel at Inter, and scoring against Juve. But this is Antonio Conte. He is a system coach, and when he decides that he wants certain players in certain positions, then that's it. And it's very expensive. Antonio Conte is a very expensive coach at every level. This is another aspect of that. But if it works, and if you've put yourself, which leads me nicely to the second point, the reason why they are in this situation in Napoli is because of Aurelio De Laurentiis. The way he botched the summer after winning the Scudetto, from Spalletti to Giuntoli, which led to him having been forced to give Osimhen a contract that Napoli can't afford to pay, giving away all the leverage he had in negotiations. This is where we are now. And also, of course, Osimhen's antics on the sidelines, which most top clubs look at and they don't want to go near. So it's just been one, when you mishandle things as badly as De Laurentiis have done, they have long-standing, long-term implications. And this is another long-term implication of the screw-up, the great F-up of the summer of 2023, that De Laurentiis masterminded all on his own. When he wanted Thiago Motta, and Thiago Motta asked him who the sporting director said, and he replied that I'm the sporting director. It's stuff like that. These things are not just short term; they have long term implications. And the Osimhen story is another example of that.
I know. I totally agree with Osimhen. I mean, I don't want to go over. We discussed this in length last week.
Also, I want to say this is exactly what happened. This is exactly what Vincenzo Chiandino said in the beginning of the summer was going to happen.
Yeah.
He said either PSG or Saudi. And that's what I think is going to happen. And also the Saudi window, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't close on the 31st of August, does it?
It didn't last year, no. It was about a week or two later.
Yeah, so I think that's why I think Napoli are chilling. And that's why Osimhen, I think, are chilling a little bit here, because they're waiting.
Yeah, but if he agrees to go to Saudi Arabia, he doesn't want to. He wants to stay in.
I think he's going to wait. I think he's going to wait until the end of the transfer window in Europe. And then, if he hasn't been sold, he'll go to Saudi with a clause, or sign just a 2-year contract or something like that.
Yeah. But I'm in total agreement on Osimhen. I don't want to go. The first point I disagree with, but we discussed that at length last week, and so I don't want to labour on that and go all over that again. I'm just not happy with the way they're spending the money in terms of quality of player. I wasn't happy when Inter. No, you weren't. But Inter
Kolarov and
I know, but Inter also. But as we said last week, Inter also were buying lots of other top players at that time, and also already had so many more top players in their squad as well, and that isn't the case with Napoli. And so that's the
I think they
difference
do
there.
have top players. I think Kvaratskhelia.
Well, yeah, they have some. They do have some, and he was amazing in
And
this game, but not
Buongiorno
to the
is a
same level.
fantastic signing. I mean, Buongiorno, I think, is a brilliant signing.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to Inter though. Inter, like Napoli, they react to a disappointing performance in match day one with an equally dominant win over Lecce. Nima, this was pretty straightforward win for Inter.
Very day at the office kind of win, wasn't it? Not didn't overwork themselves too much. They still have this kind of almost. I think all of them kind of do. All the big clubs do. Have this kind of hangover from the preseason about them. There's a rustiness. They're slowly getting into match fitness, but it's not as fluid. And Inter. It was a day at the office, not much to talk about. It was interesting to see that Lautaro, and another aspect of that, another muscle fatigue injury, which kept Lautaro out of this game. Taremi started, looked good, assist. Him and Thuram, they did well, but I really want to see Taremi with Lautaro. I think Thuram and Taremi are a little bit too similar. I still think they can make it work, but I'd rather see Lautaro and Taremi play together just to see how that works. I think they suit each other much more, and I think they would complement each other much far better. But look, Thuram continues to impress, showing that he's in mint condition this start to the season, physically, technically, mentally. He looks so light on his feet. Compared to everyone else, and he's unstoppable. And the only way to do that is to wrestle him and do neck swings, which is when he won the penalty. So no, I thought Inter were good. I thought Inter were solid. It was important to keep a clean sheet. Not much to talk about really. It was a very straightforward win, very calm. Çalhanoğlu is now the most prolific, I think, after what's his name? Cole Palmer, I think.
What, penalties?
Yeah. The most prolific in all of Europe when it comes to penalties. I don't think he's missed one, and I saw a stat, can't remember exactly what it said, but it was something. He leads Cole Palmer in terms of for penalties in all of Europe in terms of proficiency, which is so that there's that. And then no, I thought they were good, and Darmian, Mr. Dependability, he continues to. Everyone's waiting on Darmian's demise, myself included, and he just continues to, turn up when needed, and it's very very funny. He really is one of the more like, it's crazy how when you look at his career at Inter, when like myself included, we're very critical of him coming, and no one turned up to his medical. Right, no one. I don't think that's ever happened at Inter. Not a single fan turned up to welcome him, and he's won everyone over. It's really impressive to see. So no, it was a straightforward win. I don't think there's much to say. I think Inter, it was important to get Taremi into the swing of things, and it's looking good. It's going to be interesting to see when Zielinski comes in and when Lautaro's fit, and then they start get going.
Yeah. Not so good though. The other side of Milan. This was very very worrying performance for me. Milan lose 2-1 to Parma, and there is already now pressure on Paulo Fonseca, and I think rightfully so. I mean, he had a shocker in the first game with his team selection, but we agreed on this pod to give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But this game, Milan were just plain awful, and defensively especially, they conceded so many chances in this game, and they just did not look like a team. That's the biggest concern. They did not look like a team. I mean, Parma. We'll talk about Parma themselves. So we have to give praise to Parma, and we will do. But Parma completely dominated the first half, but the first 20 minutes especially, when they should have been 3 up by half time. That they should have scored 3 times at least. But Milan were just carved open so easily. They were suicidal with the high line, the man for man every time Parma countered. Parma and Pecchia were obviously targeting the fullbacks, that the ball over the top to the right and left fullbacks, especially to Calabria's side, but to Teo's side as well, because he obviously pushes up so much. It was exposing them every time, right from the start, and it was such a clear tactic. And Fonseca did not adjust to it. It was so obvious. You could see it. They were doing the same ball from the first minutes to the 90, those high balls over the top into the channels between the, where the fullbacks are.
I think Capello's quotes to Gazzetta were so strong and so pertinent and so true. He says Milan's problems are much deeper than a defeat and can be translated into one word: balance. Fonseca's team doesn't have it. They are scattered on the pitch, 3 here, 4 there, as the Portuguese coach himself said after the match. You won't get anywhere like this. The problems are more tactical than psychological. Fonseca talked about recovering the ball high up, but to do that you have to move as a team with synchronicity, organization, and rhythm. Yesterday's Milan was very far from having all of that. Let's be clear, it seemed like last year's team, with its defects, 6-7 players above the line of the ball, but then when you lose it, it's trouble. In fact, at this moment, if I were an opponent, I would be happy to face Milan.
Yeah, I agree with that. Based on this game, it was so easy to play through. I mean, there was no team press at all. It was scattered, like you said. I think you sent me a voice note, didn't you?
Yeah.
Where you said this was like Pioli. People used to make fun of Pioli for...
No, this was Pioli. This was brain dead Pioli. Like this was brain dead Pioli tactics. Like if you took Pioli and beat him over the head for an hour and a half with a baseball bat, and then told him to coach a team, that's how it would look like. It was insane. There was no tactics there. It was completely brain dead. But I do want to give a little bit of benefit of the doubt to Paulo Fonseca, because what he says, he took complete responsibility. He says he told at full time, he told the Zone, I have to say the main responsibility for what happens with this team lies with me. I take responsibility and I don't want to hide away from that. However, it's clear to me that there is a collective problem when it comes to defending and aggression. He said he thought it was everything from attitude. He said this team has a problem generally. We had problems that when we didn't press too high against Torino. Today we tried to get players to press higher and we still had problems. When someone played through our pressure, it became difficult to stay compact and recover our positions. When we get back into positions, we were passive. Position we were passive. There are lots of things. To me, it's a problem with attitude, energy, and desire to defend as a team. I mean, that is very interesting from one aspect, in the sense that he takes responsibility, kind of like this is to me Conte after match day 1 with Napoli. He takes responsibility for what has gone wrong, but he's also very, very clear and angry and annoyed. The way that he basically says they're not doing as I tell them to do. They're not following the game plan. Yes, the responsibility lies with me, but they're not following the game plan. They're not doing what we've trained at, what we've discussed. That's a problem. That is a very, very big problem. And I think, I've never really heard him talk like that before, to be perfectly honest.
No, I think it's true, but I think you're right. But at the same time, it's up to the manager to be able to get the players to play in the way that you foresee. I mean, theory is all good, all and good. Time will tell whether Fonseca is a success at Milan. But I feel like Milan have appointed Fonseca based on theory. Theoretically, everything that he wants to do and his vision of the game, and even they probably use the underlying stats and metrics and analytics in their decision to appoint Fonseca as well. In theory, that's all great, but you have to actually make it work. And there are intangibles in football as well, especially with coaching, that you can't just put down to stats and theory. And so Milan don't look like a team. I mean, they go 1-1. They equalise to go 1-1, and you would think at that time there's only one winner now. Then they somehow concede the second goal on a 3 versus 3, where both their fullbacks, Emerson Royale, who by the way had an absolute shocker on his debut after coming on, which will come as no surprise to any fan that's watched him for Tottenham. He was in no man's land up the pitch, and so was Teo. So you've got both fullbacks way up the pitch. I mean, that should be a strict rule. If one, I mean, that's a rule in football as old as time. If one fullback goes up, generally the other fullback doesn't go up unless you're behind and you're chasing the game in the last 10 minutes and you're going for broke. Generally, if one fullback goes, or you have a mechanism where somebody else falls back, like a midfielder, to make up. So somehow they were 3-3, but the number of times in this game, and this was the most worrying thing, the number of times Pavlovic, I feel sorry for the poor guy. He was abandoned like Moses in the desert in this game. The guy was one-on-one as last man so many times in this game, and he made so many last gasp challenges to save his team. I actually felt quite sorry for Pavlovic in this game. I mean, welcome to Milan, Pavlovic. I mean, he comes in and he's completely abandoned in this game. I mean, it was so bad tactically.
Mm. No, it was bad. They were completely disjointed, and defensively they were a mess. And that's what I sent you in the voice note as well. That this is like Pioli, but 100 times worse. Like it was completely all over the place. Like I get the idea of wanting to implement theory and all that stuff, which I think is a good thing, to have patience, but you cannot lack balance this fundamentally as a Milan or Inter or Juve or any club. You're going to get completely battered, and that's what happened. And defensively, especially, they were a mess, a complete mess. And I don't understand Pavlovic as last man. I don't understand why he made his debut this game, because you know that you were going to be on the front foot against Parma. You know you were going to be pushing forward and pressing high up. Pavlovic isn't. I wouldn't play him there. Like, there's no need to have him there. You'd rather have Pavlovic in a game where he has to kind of aerially command and you're playing a bit more deeper. I don't understand that decision. And
well, he was
didn't
Milan's
exactly
best.
help.
He was probably Milan's best. Well, he was Milan's best defender in this game.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, my point is simply, I just thought a lot of tactical things just didn't make sense to me. I don't think he's got a lot of time to fix this. Like, there was a lot of question marks already going into this season. But I don't think he has that much time.
Away
I
from
really don't think so.
Away from Fonseca, I do think that there are some questions for the players as well, because a lot of, the top players have been here for a long time, haven't they? Like Leao, like Theo Hernandez, Magnon. The players that we expect to be the big players, and I think that Leao and Theo are still not really doing enough to be considered champions. I mean, both again weren't good in this game. I mean, they both involved to set up the equaliser. But that's moments. They still have those great moments because they've got great quality. But both were at blame for the winner. I mean, I think the criticism of Leao for the winner has probably been a little bit. He did a bad pass. He did a crossfield pass and it got cut out, and then Parma countered and they scored. But that's not all on him. If Milan were set up better tactically, then they wouldn't have been so stretched 3-on-3 and then conceded. But I think that Leao is still feeling the pressure. We saw him shush the Milan fan on the equaliser. So this is something that we would discuss last season when he got criticism, but from Cassano, and he went on this. He like responded to him on social media, called him a clown, I think. And that
to be fair, Leao isn't wrong.
Like, he's not wrong, but again, I just feel like I don't think Leao handles the pressure very well, and Theo is again still. I don't think either of them are consistent enough to be honest with you, and that you can't. I don't think you can ever rely on these players like the big champions. When you're trying to build a team, like a successful team. I think every successful team and every top team needs a few players that are their core players to be the players that you can always rely on. That, especially in a league season, that week in, week out, these players are always going to kind of turn up for you week in, week out. Okay, they're going to have the odd bad game because everybody has the odd bad game, but generally you can rely on them. I don't think you can rely on Leao and Theo to be those guys, and I think that's a problem for Milan.
I don't know if I would go so far as to say that you can't rely on them, but I think, like in terms of definitively, but I do agree that this is the season where they're supposed to show that they are the Senators. There's no Giroud, there's no Zlatan there to hold their hands. And that's something that I've been saying for a couple of seasons now, that at some point you're going to need Leao and Teo to be those guys, to be the Senators of this squad, to use an Italian football terminology thing. And I think they will get there, because that's like the final step in order to to be that like in your development as a player, to become a reliable player that everyone depends on at a big club. That's the final step missing for both, well, especially for Leao. I think Teo has shown more often than not that he can be that guy. Maybe not as consistently, but I think he's further ahead. But it's a problem, because at the same time you have a coach who evidently, based on his own remarks, is not on the same wavelength, at least after 2 match days, with his players. And that on the back of a preseason that looked actually pretty good.
Really good. Really good. And that's what's so surprising about it.
Yeah, and that's a cause of concern for me. I don't want to. I think people should calm down. It's only 2 match days.
Yeah. It's just that I'm just looking at...
It is a cause for concern.
It's a cause for concern. These are questions that need to be answered more than anything.
The only way they can... Look, what Pioli always did was answer the questions. Whenever he was questioned, whenever things went haywire and they were defensively completely carved open, his way of handling that was to tighten the defense, was to... okay, we're not going to do much up front, but we're going to create some stability from the defense and then move forward and then open up and get back into it. Like, that's how he built the team and their confidence. And he successfully did it time and time again. I wonder if Fonseca will do that.
Yeah. Well,
and if he doesn't, he will need Milan players to just get what he's trying to say and express that on the pitch, or else this is going to be a very, very tough season.
Yeah, two other points I wanted to make on where in terms of questions that need to be answered, following on from what I just said about Teo and Leao, is that Fonseca needs to get these Milan players playing as a team, and I still think there are question marks over whether Milan lack team players. Do they have too many individualists? When Teo and Leao have great games, generally they do it through being individuals rather than through team play. And even Ruben Loftus-Cheek, to an extent, I think that's something that's often been questioned about him. Is like, is he a team player? Is he someone that is involved? I wonder with Milan, like, do they have enough of those? Like something like you'd watch from, like one of the great Juventus teams, or Inter in the last few years, you see that togetherness. You see them all playing as a team, fighting as a team, working as a unit, a defensive unit, repelling attacks as a defensive unit, the midfield compact as a and what you would see with Antonio Conte teams, you see units, you see partnerships, you see, all over the pitch. I don't see that with Milan. And that's where I add in the likes of Teo and okay, some will say that Teo and Leao work as a great partnership down that left flank. But talking as a unit, as a collective, I think that's a question.
That's the lack of
cohesion as well.
Cohesion, and they're disjointed a little bit. Yeah,
and to add to that, leadership. Like, does this Milan, especially with Giroud going now, is this Milan team lacking leaders? We need the leaders to stand up. We need to see leadership qualities. We need to see mental strength. It's quite a young team. No one over 30, I believe, started this game. But when the going gets tough in games, and there are those delicate moments in matches, does this Milan team have the mental strength and the leadership and the leaders to get them through? And again, that's something we need to see from Leao, from Teo. Leao's supposed to be a leader, and he's shushing the crowd. You don't do that as a leader. That's a negative. That's negative
it
energy.
Doesn't send
for the rest
out right.
For the rest of your team. No,
it doesn't send out the right signals. It doesn't. But Look, I think the only way to become a leader is to fail like this. I mean, we've seen it with lots of teams. I remember Zlatan shush the Kurva Nord. And then, he became, even though he was a leader on the pitch at Inter, he still had these moments. Again, this is maturity and time and making mistakes and learning from them is what you see. Is what needs to be done here. I don't want to say anything too definitive, but I do think that this is it. This season is the season when Leao, Theo need to show that they are the senators at Milan, that they can be the senators at Milan. And I think that there's no like you said, like I said as well. There's no Zlatan, there's no Giroud. Morata is a different kind of leader. This is their Milan. This is Leao and Theo's Milan, and they need to be leaders. They need to not lose it. They need to not get themselves sent off and shush. And even when things are difficult, they need to calmly and in a mentally in a mentally mature way take on these situations. And I think they will. I do think that there is growth there. The question is, for me, more than anything, is if Fonseca is there when that happens. Because based on these two games, no matter how much identity and how much ideas and theory you have, you cannot at Milan and Inter and Juve be this open defensively. You just cannot. You cannot be this carved open this easily. It just doesn't work. That is something he needs to address. And that is, for me, the most pressing question going forward with regards to Milan is, how does Fonseca handle the fact that everything Capello said in terms of balance, in terms of being carved open, lack of cohesion, how does he handle these things? Because they are the most pressing, burning issues. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah. But if I'm not mistaken, they've got
Lazio away next game.
Yeah, Lazio away, which is maybe not the easiest game to.
Yeah, not easy, but not not frightening. Let's put it that way. But anyway, we have to talk about Parma. We have to give them praise because Parma are not a bad team. In fact, they've been so far the biggest. I mean, it's only 2 weeks. We're only 2 match days in, but they've been the biggest, the most refreshing team in Serie A so far this season. And they dominated the first half. They should have, as I said before, they should have scored 3 or 4 goals by half time. But they have so many exciting players that I want us to run through in this team, and then we will come to Pekka as well, who I think is very exciting as well. But first of all, Dennis Mann, who we touched on last week. He scored again, 2 goals in 2 games. He was again fantastic in this game. He also set up a sitter for Som that should have made it 2-0. I mean, he's destined probably for a bigger club, isn't he, at some point?
There's no doubt about that. I mean, in our Q&A pod, which is for patrons, we've been out last season, we were asked several times about up-and-coming managers, up-and-coming stars. And I said Dennis Mann and Pekka because they were really impressive in Serie B. Dennis Mann is I think it's just a matter of time. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody came in for him in January already. Maybe even Milan.
Or even a cheeky bid this week. I mean, I don't think he'll get accepted, but because he's shown already.
I think so. Because he's an irrational player who can beat his man. He was so unlucky not to score that second goal. Just missed it by an inch, didn't he? That curler. But no, I think we're talking about a player who's going to be the talk of the town or the talk of the Serie A in January. I think it's just already, if he continues like this and he can stay fit, I think he's going to be the player that everyone, like all the big clubs, vulture around.
I agree, but he's not the only one, Nima, because there are a lot of players because I've watched both of Parma's games in full, and there is a lot of players who have instantly, just through the watching eye, I've done no deep digging on them. I'm just done this the old-fashioned way. They really, really impressed me. First of all, Bonny, the young, I think he's 20 years old, centre forward. He is an absolute monster. His strength, his physical strength, holding up the ball and defenders bouncing off him. He's so strong for 20 years old. The way that he he takes defenders with him, which we saw for the first goal. He dragged all the defenders with him with the run, and then it went to the back post for Man to put in. But his hold up play, if you put a ball up to him, it sticks to him. He brings others into play. He's really good with his back to goal. He's maybe technically, we'll see. I need to watch more of him. But in terms of just playing that old-fashioned game of holding it up, bringing others into play, really, really, really interesting player to watch. The young French striker. Bernabé in midfield. What a lovely little left-footed midfielder. Typical Spanish player. Really good on the ball, skillful, great use of the ball. He got one fantastic assist for the disallowed Boni goal.
Yeah.
He won the Olympics with Spain in the summer. Bernabé, definitely somebody to watch out for this season. And also Koulibaly, the right back. Electric going forward. One amazing run in the first half. It was like a 60-yard run. Picked it up in the right back position, went all the way up the pitch, and he went all the way. Tomori came over and used his pace to clear the danger. Really, really good Koulibaly. And then you've got Suzuki in goal, very highly rated young goalkeeper. Mihaila on the other side, Man on one side, the other Romanian, Mihaila on the other side. I think he's gonna cause trouble this season as well. Som, the young midfielder, and they're very, very young team. Fantastic recruitment. Most of these players they signed when they went down 3 years ago, and it's come to fruition now. Where a lot of people were laughing at Parma back then, I remember for these signs. And okay, it's been a long road back, but it just shows the patience, doesn't it? And even the bench players are dangerous. Almqvist, and a substitute, got the assist for Cancellieri, a substitute.
Yeah,
so really exciting times for Parma. If I was a Parma fan, I'd be really, really loving going to watch them this season, because I think they're going to be very exciting to watch.
They are, and they're going to be a handful, especially at home. The Parma project is doing well. Kyle Kraus built it long term when he took over, and they got a new stadium that they're going to get as well, and like they're in a good place. And like you said, most of these players, these young guys, were players they bought a couple of seasons ago, and then they've kind of just spiced it up, and now they've got a coach in Pecchia who did really well last season, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does, Pecchia, because he's 50 years old. I remember him from playing for Napoli in the mid 90s.
And he went to Juventus, but he didn't really get a chance there. They're such a great team, but he really impressed me. Not impressed me, I want to see more of him, but he really intrigued me in this game with some of his tactical schemes. There was a couple that really stood out for me. He was always leaving 3 players up when Milan had the ball, so they were in a position to counter, which is very, very risky. But I'd be interested to see if that's something they do regularly against all opponents, or whether this was just Pecchia looking at Milan, seeing that there was a weakness there, and that obviously the way, like we described with Fonseca, the suicidal defending, and thought, you know what, let's leave 3 players up, and then every time if we win the ball and counter, we're going to be 3-on-3, which is what was happening consistently all game, pretty much, and that's why they created so many chances, because they were 3-on-3 every single time. So that was very, very interesting scheme, and also they were defending corners with 5 players in the box and then leaving everyone else up, which again is ridiculously risky, very, very risky, because the area's so open and bare. But again, it's a tactical. I mean, these are interesting ideas, and I think, judging on what I've seen of Parma, I think Parma are going to concede quite a lot of goals this season.
Oh, I think so.
But they're going to score a lot as well,
Yeah.
and the front 3 are going to score a lot, because they're a dangerous front 3 who I think will cause trouble to most teams.
He's had an interesting career. He's had an interesting career. I remember he brought Hellas Verona back to Serie A. He stayed with them for a year. They got relegated, and then he went down. And then he brought Cremonese up to Serie A, resigned immediately upon that, took over Parma for 2 years, and then he won the Serie B last season. He's had he is, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was an assistant to Rafa Benitez, who was there.
That's correct. Benitez was there. He was at the match.
Yeah, who was also there. I mean, that's like his guy, Benitez. Like, that's his mentor. So no, he's an interesting character. Parma are gonna be very interesting to watch. And it's gonna. I have them somewhere in the mid-table. I don't see them being anywhere near
Agreed.
the
Yeah. So do
relegation.
I. So do I.
So, and it's good because look, if you grew up in the 90s watching Parma, like that's a classic Serie A club. Like you don't want to, you want them back in Serie A. But I think they're going to be they're going to be a handful, and they're going to score a lot, and they're going to be very, very difficult, especially at home.
No, I agree. They're going to score a lot. They could see a lot. I think there is one weakness. Their defense is not the strongest, but they are going to be very, very, very exciting team to watch. They're a team that I'm definitely going to be trying to watch every week going forward. Atalanta, another team that are going to be great to watch. They're also going to score a lot and concede a lot as well this season. And we saw that against Torino. They lose 2-1 after that great win in match day one. They're brought back down to earth. Also, if we're talking the theme of today, defensively, not good enough in this game. Atalanta defending on both the goals that was terrible. They got opened up so easily, very naive. That especially the second goal. Have a look at the high line and for the second goal, and just conceded too many chances in a game in which they dominated in terms of generally dominated in terms of control and territory. Yet they conceded so many chances. Every time Torino attacked, they looked like creating chances, which I think was a bit of a concern. Torino had other big chances. Zapata had a header cleared off the line. He had a one-on-one that he saved, that was saved as well. So defensively not good. Ultimately, though, if you watch the game as a whole, I think Atalanta probably don't deserve to lose this game. They
really don't.
They were unlucky. They created so many chances, and they were laying siege at the end for they hit the woodwork twice. They missed a penalty at the end. They had 2 shots cleared off the line, and Milinkovic-Savic made some great saves. So they were unlucky. Again, really entertaining game. But some good and some bad for Atalanta in this match.
No, I mean the an XG of 3.14 for Atalanta is just like, that's mad. Retegui had 2 big chances. He scored one, a fantastic, powerful header. And then he had a couple of chances he should have scored as well. It's unlucky that Gasperini took him off, because he is their main penalty taker.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake too. I think he should have kept him on, also because he's your main penalty taker.
Yeah,
and they got a penalty which Pasalic missed. So I think that's a mistake. And of course the Kettler hitting the woodwork and so on. No, they did more than enough to win this game, but I don't want to take anything away from Torino.
Just before we come on to Torino, I do want to say one thing. Retegui has impressed me in these first 2 games. Forget the goal scoring. We know he's a great goal scorer. We know he finishes. We know he's great in the air, and we saw that again. That was a fantastic header. What he impressed me in this game, and I thought he was Atalanta's best player in this game, was his all-round game, his game with back to goal and his link up with the teammates was especially in this game, but in both games, has been so much better than I expected, because everything that I've seen of Retegui so far with Genoa, but with the Italy national team, is a player that's very, very limited and uncomfortable with his back to goal. That is what I mean. I want to see it over a longer period, but what I've seen so far is that actually his all-round game and his link up has actually been pretty good, pretty damn good.
Gasperini, you got to give credit to Gasperini.
Yeah,
he has this ability to improve players.
And I agree. Big mistake taking him off, because every time the ball was coming to the box, he was, we know his movement's very good, and we know he can. And I thought he was unlucky actually with his misses. I don't think they were so much misses that they were good defense, like the one that he had cleared off the line. I mean, that's great defending, and the header against the bar, that's unlucky. That's a reaction. So I think he was unlucky. I think he was unlucky with those missed chances. But
I agree.
But I think it's very impressed with Retegui before you praise Torino.
And I will praise Torino. Ivan Ilic, Samuel Ricci, like that. This midfield is just. It makes me smile. I really enjoy watching Torino right now. And with Vanja Milinkovic-Savic in goal, who's so underrated goalkeeping wise. I mean, it's not just penalties. He's such a bully in the area, isn't he? He just controls that area, and you can tell that he is in complete control of that penalty area. That the defenders fear him,
Yeah.
both his own and the opposing attackers, and it's just the way that they play, the way that they react. Is just really impressive. It's looked very, very good.
Yeah, beautiful goal from Ilic. I have to say the finish was beautiful. Like he has those touches of class, doesn't he? He has those touches of real quality, and I think he can play at a high level.
He
Eventually.
absolutely can. Both Ricci and Ilic can and will. If Cairo doesn't ruin
And
their
Che Adams'
careers.
first goal for Torino
he was
as
good.
well.
I thought he was good. I'm very, very.
Yeah, I have to say that, and obviously Milinkovic-Savic, the penalty save at the end, it was a bad penalty, but it was a good save from Milinkovic-Savic. So Serbia beats Croatia, so I'm sure that will be celebrated among the Serbs. But I have to say, Torino, great start to the season. Milan away, Atalanta at home, and many would have predicted no points, especially after what's been a pretty bad transfer window, if we're honest. And they've come in and they've had a great start to the season, 4 points. I mean, I think they have rode their luck a bit in both games, if I'm honest with you. But they showed their fight and they showed they will be competitive. So that they
Well, their next 3 games are Venezia, Lecce, and Verona. Those are very winnable games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, if they can get into a good form and good start, like if they, I wouldn't put it past them. I don't think it would have been possible for them to win all 3. Okay, Verona away could be somewhat tricky, but Lecce at home, given how Lecce look, even though they were better against Inter than they were in the opening game, and that's a game that I fancy Torino to win. And Venezia, they I know they drew away against Fiorentina, but I blame that more on Fiorentina's inability to convert than anything else, or create rather.
Yeah. Well, let's go through the rest of the Serie A fixtures. You mentioned that Fiorentina 0, Venezia 0, third straight draw of the season for Fiorentina. It's been a difficult start to the season for them. They were really bad as well in Europe against Puskas's Academy. Trying to remember the full name.
Puskas's Academy.
Well, that's what they're called, aren't they?
Puskás Akademia.
Yeah, Puskas's Academy. I mean, they were terrible in that game. Terrible. And they were 2-0 down within like 10 minutes. And yes, it's been a difficult start for Fiorentina and for Palladino. Monza lose 1-0 at home to Genoa. Not a good game at all. But Genoa, after drawing with Inter, they get a result. So well done, Gilardino again. He's got another win there. And then Udinese beating Lazio 2-1. Lorenzo Luca scoring for
bullet
Udinese.
Bullet
header. Yeah, he's been on very, very good form actually, Luca, including pre-season. So he's I think he's one to watch this season, especially with Italy crying out for a striker. He's. I'm going to ask. We've actually got an interview planned this week. We're just finalising with the Udinese goalkeeper Okoye. I'm going to ask him about Luca, whether he thinks facing him in training, whether he thinks he could be maybe someone for the Italy national team, maybe because we don't really have many options, and he's one of the few Italians that is kind of consistently scoring now. Lazio, though, I think this is going to be Lazio this season. I think they are going to be inconsistent because they have a young team, and so this is a disappointing result for them. And the defending for Tovan's goal was shocking. He ran half the length of the pitch virtually without going past the player. The players just kind of jockeyed him the whole way and then didn't put a challenge in, and he scored.
No, I agree. I think that's spot on. Just one thing to note: Monza against Genoa, Nesta against Gilardino. 2006 heroes, Milan players, winning Champions League together and that. But no, it's I thought it was it was. Genoa are going to be a handful. They're not going to be pretty to watch, but they're going to be a difficult team to play against, both home and away. They're
and I think they'll do some business. Miretti's joining on loan from Juventus as well, so we'll see what other business they do. We're recording this before the Monday evening games. Cagliari against Como, who've also continue to do a lot of business, and then Verona against Juventus, and that brings us on to our final segment before Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. Juventus have been very, very busy in the transfer market over the weekend. They brought in two wingers, Nico Gonzalez from Fiorentina for an initial loan, but with an obligation to buy. It's going to end up reaching around 37 to 38 million euros. 3.6 million a year contract until when I'm not sure when the contract's until. It's not 2026, it's later than that, but that's incorrect information I've got on here. But yeah, Nico Gonzalez from Fiorentina, and then Francisco Conceição, the son of Sergio Conceição, on more of a strange deal here. So it's going to be an initial loan for a year. There is no buy option as far as I'm concerned. Porto will receive 7 million for the loan plus 3 million add-ons, but Juventus will have the first refusal to pay the release clause of Conceição 30 million in the first 2 weeks of July. So it is kind of like an option, really. It's just not officially an option. And that will take it to around 40 million if they in total if they eventually decide to sign him. So Conceição, the son of Sergio Conceição. So Juventus right now are like the 1990s child legends, aren't they? They've got like Conceição, Sergio Conceição's son. They've got Lilian Thuram's son. They've got
Timothy Weah.
George Weah's son, and they've got Enrico Chiesa's son, although he's going to leave. So they've got like four sons of Serie A 90s legends. It's pretty amazing, really, isn't it?
That's actually a really good point. I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, incredible.
Enrico's kid, Lilian's kid, George's kid, and Sergio's kid.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it? Yeah, but Chiesa's going to be sold. You think Barcelona are in talks with him, but if he is sold, it seems as though Juventus are still going to see if they can try and bring Sancho in the last stage of the window too. What is, I think, more certain is that Tuan Koopmeiners is going to join eventually from Atalanta. So, I mean, my take on this is that Juventus are suddenly looking very competitive. Obviously, it's going to be a difficult job for Motta because so many new players. It's not going to be easy to get them to gel quickly. So that isn't it. That is going to be difficult. Problems come with that. But in terms of, on paper, if we look at the options, Juventus have gone from very bare, and they're very bare for the Verona game. They've barely put out a team for it. But once these players all come in, they're registered and they join. I mean, Juventus have gone from no wingers to suddenly having some pretty good winger options. Nico, Conceição, Yildiz. I mean, if Sancho comes in as well, I mean, that's four kind of, good top quality winger options there. You've got Weah as well, Bangura, lots of options there. The midfield with Koopmeiners come in, we know is very strong. That's going to be their strongest department. The defense is not, I think is not.
Problem.
It's still a bit of an issue.
It's still a problem. It's a problem.
And Vlahovic, obviously, lots of questions to answer. But for me, I mean, I have to say, if this all gets pulled off, I think Juntli has ended up doing an incredible job in terms of the players, the number of players he's managed to bring in from where Juventus were. I think it's incredible. Really,
it's been a chaotic summer and an intense summer. And again, like we said before, like when people were criticizing Giuntoli, we were saying, has he overplayed his hand? At the end, of the day, you really can't. The mercato, you really have to wait until it closes before you make a judgment. Obviously, you want things done as soon as possible in an ideal world, but the sheer amount of business that Juventus needed to do, the sheer amount of finances and players they needed to sell, so Weston McKennie was going to leave, but now he's extended instead. So, it's been a very fluctuating situation for Juve, and he's adapted to it very calmly. And he's, again, this is the revolution that Juve fans have been waiting for many years. This is the summer where they did it. They, out with the old, in with the new. How we'll have to wait and see how it actually looks on the pitch, but
I'll come on to that in a minute. But I mean, just to add to what you said about Giuntoli, I think what he's done so well is financially, because people are asking, well, how can Juventus sign all these players? But if you actually look at the money that's been saved also on salaries, I mean, he saved a hell of a lot of money on salaries. The players that have been brought in are generally on much lower salaries than many of those that have left the club from last season. So they've cut a lot on the salaries, but also, a lot of these deals are, initial loans. Like if you take like Conceição and Nico Gonzalez, just those two, well, it's a 7 million loan for Conceição, and then for Gonzalez, was it 7 million, I think, or 8 million for Conceição for the first year of the loan, then the obligation on top of that. So you're looking at, what's going on the books just for the transfer fees. You're looking at kind of like 15 million. Or there or thereabouts. I can't remember the exact figure of the Gonzalez loan, but it's basically you take those loan figures and that's what's going on the books this season. And they brought in two. Obviously you're pushing it down the line a little bit in terms of the finances. Next summer Juventus are probably not going to be able to spend that much because
next summer Juventus aren't doing as much. It's going to be a little bit like Inter this summer.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, I think
they're going to look for a central defender. I think they're definitely looking for a central defender because the goalkeepers have been sorted, the midfield has been sorted, the attack has been sorted.
The wings,
the wingers, yeah. They need to maybe sort out the fullbacks and the defense next summer. And we're talking 2-3 players at most. I think I don't see them doing much next summer. But yeah, this is the revolution. Like I said, 5 years. Juve fans have been waiting for a long time for something new. Well, it's here. It's a new coach. It's a completely new project. Lots of new players. Out with the old, in with the new. They're going to have to take this step by step. And see if they can offload some players and balance the books even more after that. But overall, I think they've done financially well. They've respected the parameters, it seems. No, it's something for Juve fans to finally look forward to. They've not had much to look forward to at all.
The hope is back. But if we look at Juventus's lineup, how will Juventus line up once all these players coming? Again, we're recording this before Verona, so I'm totally ignoring whatever happens in that Verona game. I'm just looking at the season as a whole. So obviously Di Gregorio will be the goalkeeper. In defence, the back four could change a little bit. I think Breme is a guarantee; he will always start. And then Cambiasso is probably generally we can say will be a starter. But whether or not he's on the right or the left will depend on who the other two players. As it stands right now, Danilo is not a starting 11 player. Motta has been quite clear on that he, as it stands right now, he's not really a first team player for Juventus, which is an interesting talking point in itself. So we're looking at probably, let's say, Cambiasso right back, Cabal left back, and then Breme and Gatti at centre backs. But there could be changes. We could see, for example, Cambiasso go left back, and then right back be either Danilo, if he can work his way back into the team, or Kalulu, who obviously has signed from Milan. Alternatively, it could be that Breme is the centre back with Kalulu, so that Gatti moves out. Gatti moves out of the team. Kalulu partners Breme, and then at full back you have Cambiasso and Cabal, or Cambiasso left back and Danilo right back. So there are a few options. I still think Juventus are probably a man short in defence, but and also in terms of quality, I think that is obviously still a bit of a weak area. But at the same time, as I said last week, I think that Juventus's midfield is so strong, and the way that Motta teams play, they like to control the game as a way to protect the defence, control possession as a way to protect the defence. I think that the Juventus defence won't be as exposed as it normally would be, given that it's not the strongest defence on paper, Juventus's defence. So that's the defence. Midfield. So the midfield there's lots of quality in the midfield. I think the first choice midfield will be Thuram and Douglas Luiz as the kind of like the two, let's say, and then the kind of the number 10 in front of them will be Koopmeiners. with the added advantage of course, that Koop Miners can form a three. But at the same time, there are also Locatelli and Fagioli who have their own qualities. So it's possible that they will rotate in some games. Maybe Koop Miners will play in the two. Yeah, in other games, maybe Thuram will be out and Locatelli will be in, or Luiz will be out and Locatelli or Fagioli will be in. So there's 5 good options there, and then I think McKennie will be like a backup number 10 option, maybe, or maybe he sees McKennie as maybe he's going to try and train him into a right back. I don't know. McKennie's role is quite interesting actually. I think that was more of a financial decision to extend his contract. Really, they've decided to protect his value, give him another year, and then try and sell him next year. I think there's more to that, and also it allows them to send Moretti on loan, gives them an extra number in midfield. So I think that's where McKennie plays. And then the wings, as it stands, Juventus have 5 options for the wings. They have Nico Gonzalez, Conceição, who can both play on the right, but Nico Gonzalez can also play on the left. They have Yildiz, who can play on the left, but can also play as a 10, as we saw in the opening game against Como. And then we have Umbangula, who's a left, who plays on the wing, but he maybe potentially go back to the next gen team if Sancho comes in. We'll see if Sancho comes in. If Sancho comes in, that's 4 kind of top options for the 2 wing role, for the 2 wide roles. So you can see that the plan is to give Motta lots of options, Motta said he wants 2 players for each position, and I think Giuntoli's given him that. So we'll see what happens with Sancho. And then up front, there's Vlahovic as the starting striker, and then as it stands, there's Milik as the backup. Very slim chance Juventus could look into bring a backup for Vlahovic on a very cheap option, maybe a loan or something, if they can get Milik out. But I think that's going to be difficult. So yeah, that's the team, Nima.
Well, there's also, just wanted to add, there's Yunus Ruhi, the Swede of Moroccan descent, who will play at left back. Who, if he's given a first team contract, but he will alternate between the next gen team and the first team, which would allow Cabal to play in the middle as well and defensively. But no, that's pretty much it. It's
well said about Cabal. He is also a centre back option.
Yeah. So there is that.
There's also Savona as well, who's part of the first team squad as well, and he was he came on at half time against Como and might actually start against Verona potentially because Juventus are down to the bare bones ahead of that game. So very very active Juventus and lots of.
It's such a Thiago Motta team, isn't it? Like he's really given Motta what everything he needs and options in young players, young players that have huge potential that can grow, and attacking minded players, lots of legs and physicality in this team, lots of technique. Aerially, they have Nico Gonzalez is very good going forward. So no, there's it's a good balanced team.
Yeah. They are covered aerially. That's a good point to make. With Vlahovic is good. Vlahovic, Nico Gonzalez, and then you've got Thuram, and then obviously the defensive players as well. Bremer, Gatti if he plays. So yeah.
No, it's looking like a complete team, and they are looking like contenders. They really are.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's. We can't underestimate the job that Motta has with so many new players. That is going to be a job. But Giuntoli has done a very, very good job in bringing in so many players with the financial restraints that he has. I think he's done very well in that sense. Let's finish off with Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. So Baggio of the week. I feel like we have to go Parma related for that.
Yeah, I have Dennis Mann. I thought he was outstanding. I really liked what he did, and he looked so. Yeah, he looked really good. I really enjoyed
Dennis Mann. I think Kvaratskhelia as well.
Yeah, Kvara.
I thought he was sensational.
Yeah, he was. No, I've really enjoyed watching Dennis Mann. He was really, really good.
Yeah, for sure. Premface of the week, though. We've got Jamie Carragher. This was sent in from Uncle Sharma, our friend Uncle Sharma, who runs a great Inter podcast. YouTube, yeah. On YouTube, check him out, Uncle Sharma. So he sent this in from Jamie Carragher, who criticised Real Sociedad's Martin Zubimendi for rejecting them this summer. A deal was done, basically, but then Zubimendi decided he wanted to stay at his hometown club. And Carragher said, I quote, "I have to be honest, he's 25 years old. He's just won the Euros. He plays for Sociedad. I know it's his hometown club, but I think it's time to get into the Premier League. It's disappointed that he won't come to the Premier League, the best league in the world, and play in the Champions League with a historic club. Real Sociedad can't be your last step."
It's just it's the sense of entitlement that kills that kills me. It's like, this is someone who is from San Sebastian. He grew up there. He's from there. He's playing for his hometown team. He why would he, like, he did play in the Champions League last year. Like, what are you talking about? Like, Sociedad were in the Champions League. Like, what are you on about? And they won their group with Inter in it. Like, it's just, this notion that everyone should always, he won the Euros. He's won the Nations League with Spain. He won the Copa del Rey with Sociedad. He was part of that squad. Like, why? He is actually competing for important trophies and winning. And he's doing it with his hometown team. Like, this sense of entitlement is what really annoys me. About how dare you? It's like, well, no. Why would he leave? Why should he leave? And it just makes no sense to me at all. Like, it's like, you can't be this much of, like, you can't be this up your own butt this much, is basically what I'm trying to say.
And I think it's more how he said it than it's just the entitlement, like you said. It's the sense of entitlement that it's.
Yeah, but Zubimendi's doing all right. Like, again, 2 titles with Spain, won the Euros.
Let's be honest. In many ways, he won Spain the Euros. Tactically, he won that Euro final. When he came on, everything changed tactically. Rodri was being man-marked. He came on, Martin Zubimendi, that released the man-marking job that was being done on Spain's deeper central midfielder, and he was freed up, and he run the show in the center of midfield in the second half. So, yeah.
No, it's like, I get that they want, that, okay, Liverpool's a bigger club than Sociedad. Everyone gets that, but Liverpool aren't entitled to players. No one's entitled to players. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's like, it doesn't take you very long research to understand that Zubimendi's actually enjoying his career. He is playing in it. He did play with in the Champions League with his hometown club. He has won trophies with his country. He has won silverware with his hometown club. So I don't.
Just sums up where football is, though, nowadays. That it's just Premier League and nothing else. Nothing else matters. Unfortunately,
and if I'm not mistaken, Sociedad are in Europe in the Europa League this season as well, and I fancy the chances there, to be honest. So,
yeah. Serie Ass of the week. We've got 2 actually. I did have a third one, but I'm going to save that for next week. But the first one I've got is the new Serie A lineup graphics. I mean, again, like, we go on and on about on this show all the time about how badly the league is marketed, and the 2 teams are lining up before a Serie A game. You're watching it on TV. The Serie A lineups come up on the screen, and the new lineup graphics are, the text of each player is so small you can't even see the players' names on them. I mean,
it's not just that. Did you notice against in the Parma Milan game? I don't know if anyone else noticed, but after Milan equalized, it took about 2.5 minutes before the graphic changed to 1-1.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the restart of the game, it started and it still said 1-0, and then all of a sudden it said goal.
What are they restarting for? Is it half time? Is it the second half?
Yeah, no, after Milan equalised.
Yeah, I know.
So it was really funny, and I was laughing to myself. It's like someone fell asleep at the wheel. Like it was just like Pulisic equalised in the 66th minute. And so the game was restarted. It still said 1-0. And then all of a sudden, it's like someone, oh shit, I forgot to press the button. And then it said goal. And it said it's 1-1. Whilst the game had restarted, it made me laugh.
It's
That's my Serie Ass of the week. That made me laugh.
It's absolutely insane.
It made me laugh a lot.
No. But I mean, how can you have lineup graphics and you can't even see the players' names? I mean, you don't even know who's playing. I mean, you're watching a game of football and you don't even know who's playing on the teams. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, the other thing was, the other Serie Ass of the week was, I saw this sent in a group. So the Lega Serie A Twitter account, as always, they tweeted.
It's a meme apparently from a British police account where they misspelt something and that's become a meme.
Oh right, okay, I must have missed that one then.
Me too. Like, I think it's
well known that it's become,
Cambridgeshire's police department
right
tweeted out on the 23rd of August. Please be aware that currently the M11. That's all they tweeted out.
Right. Okay. I mean, I never heard of that. And
no, neither did
judging
I.
On the replies to the tweet. So basically, the Lega Serie A tweeted on Sunday at just after midday in Italy. Please be aware that currently Calcio. That's it.
Yeah.
That's which obviously makes no sense at all. And the replies are hilarious. It's like,
yeah, they are.
Sandrino says, "Ma che cazzo dice?" Which is my favourite reply.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny too. It made me laugh too.
Martin Culiti says, "Porco Dio, come cringiate voi nessuno."
It's really weird.
Dogfit says, "What English is this?"
My favourite is someone says, "Thanks. Now I'm aware that currently Calcio." And another one is another guy is Francesco Calcio tweeted a meme from an Italian like like trash Italiano, like from a talk show, saying "Guarda, non ho capito un cazzo."
Yeah. Another person says,
my favorite is this one with the image from that Tom Hanks movie where when the pirates take over, and it says, "The admin was pirated. I am the admin now."
Another person says, "Please be aware that I'm still pirating the games, and can you get stuffed?" Another guy goes, "STFU, I can't watch it from my country."
Oh my god. Yeah. It's so funny.
Amazing. Okay, let's leave it at that then. Thank you everyone for listening. We will be back this week. We'll have the Q&A later in the week. We're also playing some other stuff as well, which we will confirm. But we do have an interview with the Udinese goalkeeper Maduka Okoye, and that we'll probably push that out next week during the international break. Okay, everyone. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Ciao, ciao.